The unpredictable billionaire. Who is Donald Trump really? He was born rich, made richer, went bankrupt, then became president. But behind the money, behind the fame, who is Donald Trump? Donald Trump is not just a political figure, he is a phenomenon, an enigma, a force of disruption who changed the DNA of American politics. Before him, leaders used diplomacy, logic, and spectacle. His behavior is often called narcissistic, unpredictable, even dangerous. But it's also charismatic, magnetic, and to millions heroic. Love him or hate him, he controls the narrative. And that's what this video uncovers. How Trump's behavior shaped modern America and why it still holds power over people's minds. The early years, born for bravado, born in 1946, Donald Trump grew up in a world of privilege. But privilege came with his father. Fred Trump was a tough and calculating businessman. He didn't raise his son to be kind, he raised him to win. From an early age, Donald was taught that life was a competition. Weakness was failure, empathy was optional. He was known to throw erasers at teachers, bully classmates, and show a cocky arrogance even in military school. This early behavior wasn't random, it was rehearsed. He was learning to dominate, to intimidate, and to never ever admit defeat. The business persona, selling himself as the product in the 1980s and 90s, Donald Trump transformed real estate into reality entertainment. Everything he touched, his casinos, his airline, his buildings, had one name printed in gold: Trump. His behavior as a businessman was larger than life. When he succeeded, he bragged. When he failed, he denied it. Even when he went bankrupt multiple times, he convinced people he was winning. He didn't follow the rules of Wall Street, he followed the rules of television. Be bold, be confident, never admit weakness, and above all, dominate the conversation. His business behavior was a preview of what his political behavior would become. Relentless self-promotion, the media manipulator, turning outrage into airtime. While most public figures feared bad press, Trump thrived on it. Every scandal, every outrageous quote, every feud fed his popularity. Long before politics, Trump knew that in media, attention is power. Whether he was attacking Rosie O'Donnell on talk shows or planting stories in New York tabloids, his behavior was always designed to provoke. But when The Apprentice came, it was game over. "You're fired" became a cultural catchphrase, and Trump became a cultural catchphrase. He wasn't just building his brand, he was building a mythology, one where he was always the boss, always in control. The political entry from reality star to real candidate. In 2015, Donald Trump announced his run for president. Most thought it was a publicity stunt, but then he spoke. He didn't use prepared speeches. He didn't follow party lines. He said things others were too afraid to say, about immigration, about Muslims, about fake news. His behavior on the campaign trail was chaotic, confrontational, and completely different. Where traditional politicians tried to unite, Trump divided. And it worked. Every insult turned into media coverage. Every outburst fueled support. He created a movement based on frustration, identity, and rebellion. His campaign wasn't built on policies, it was built on behavior. The rhetoric of division, Donald Trump's speeches weren't about policy complexity, they were about emotional simplicity. Build the wall, lock the up, drain the sponge, short, memorable, and effective. His behavior in public rallies often resembled a performer more than a politician. He painted every issue as a war between patriots and traitors, winners and losers, America first or America forgotten. This polarizing rhetoric wasn't accidental, it was behavioral strategy. Trump discovered that outrage was not just persuasive, it was addictive. He amplified division to consolidate loyalty, attacking the institutions, discrediting the system from judges to journalists when they challenged him. His behavior wasn't just anti-establishment, it was anti-accountability. He delegitimized the very institutions that held democratic society together. Why? Because if you don't trust the system, you'll trust the man who says he can fix it. This behavior wasn't about policy differences, it was about narrative control. Trump positioned himself as the only truth teller in a sea of liars. Twitter presidency governing in 280 characters, while past presidents used official press briefings, Trump used Twitter as his primary weapon. At 3 a.m. from Air Force One from the golf course, his fingers never rested. His tweets were impulsive, aggressive, and often inflammatory, but they served a purpose. They kept him at the center of attention, bypassed traditional media filters, and gave his supporters a sense of unfiltered access. His behavior on social media blurred the line between state affairs and street fights. He wasn't just tweeting, he was controlling the national conversation. The loyalty test, my way or the highway, loyalty to Trump wasn't about ideology. It was about personal allegiance. He expected fealty, not debate. From cabinet members to Republican senators, anyone who questioned him publicly was labeled a traitor. This behavior resembled corporate loyalty more than constitutional governance. Those who resisted were fired, humiliated, or sidelined. Trump turned the executive branch into a court where he was king and loyalty was currency. The cult of personality follows over policies. For many of his supporters, Trump wasn't just a politician, he was a symbol of rebellion, of raw American defiance. His behavior inspired emotional loyalty. They forgave his lies, his scandals, even his impeachments, because they believed in the character, not the conduct. This behavior-centric movement, where charisma outweighed policy, where identity overruled facts, is what created what many now call a cult of personality. Trump didn't need to change minds, he just needed to deepen devotion. Foreign affairs, friends, and foes, Trump's behavior on the world stage was as unconventional as his tweets. He cozied up to authoritarian leaders like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and even praised Xi Jinping, while alienating traditional allies like Germany, Canada, and NATO partners. His supporters called it bold diplomacy. Critics saw it as recklessness. He withdrew from international agreements, questioned intelligence on foreign threats, and praised dictators for their strength. Trump treated global politics as transactional. Loyalty and flattery earned his favor, criticism earned his wrath. The COVID-19 crisis defined in a pandemic. When the world shut down, Trump didn't follow the script. His behavior during the pandemic was chaotic and controversial. He downplayed the virus, attacked scientists, and resisted public health measures. He mocked mask wearing, pushed unproven treatments, and often contradicted his own health officials. But it wasn't just about the science, it was about the optics. Trump saw the pandemic not as a medical crisis, but as a political battlefield. His behavior polarized a public health emergency into a partisan war. The election denial, the big lie, begins after losing the 2020 election. Trump refused to concede. He spread unproven claims of voter fraud and launched over 60 failed lawsuits. His behavior wasn't just about disbelieving people, it was about delegitimizing the outcome. He convinced millions that the election was stolen, planting seeds of distrust in the democratic system. His refusal to accept defeat wasn't a moment, it was a movement. And that movement would soon reach its boiling point on January 6th. If you enjoyed this video and it gave you something to think about, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.